welcome to our podcast. I'm Staff Sergeant Flores, and this is Sergeant Smart. And we're here for the first installment of Huntington Beach Hair Buns podcast, where we'll be talking with leaders across the Army about issues that are important to current and future soldiers. So let's get started.
So today we have with us Master Sergeant Searcy. She's been in the Army about 20 years. She's on retirement leave currently. Thank you for joining us, Master Sergeant Searcy, for Huntington Beach's first Hair Buns podcast. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I am so honored. And I tell you what, this is such a highlight, closing my military chapter, having the opportunity to do this. So thank you for even thinking about me.
I'm so excited. So we're going to let you roll into your bio. We want our viewers to hear all about the awesome leader that you are.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And again, thank you for this opportunity. I joined the military in 2000. And I was a knucklehead, did not know what I wanted to get out of life. Joined the military every day from that point on was an absolute new experience for me. I enlisted in Fort Meade, Gillem, Georgia. Up to this day, I still have no idea where that is. And then I went to Fort Leonard Wood and Fort Sam AIT for my basic training. My first duty station was Fort Stewart, Georgia. Then I just really started my transition. I PCS to Fort Lee. I PCS to Germany, where I've spent majority of my military career, to include 3 deployments there. And then I came back to the States, and I was able to PCS to the wonderful state of Washington, D.C., and then now closing my military career at Fort Gordon. So I've really enjoyed myself. I started my first half of my military career as a combat medic, and I was introduced to my secondary MOS, which I am now, as a 79 Sierra, a career counselor. So I've really gotten to see 2 different extremes in the military, but I absolutely enjoyed every single day of it. And to this day, I still have no regrets.
Now, as a career counselor, you fill a different role, because as recruiters, we're considered career counselors and we're at the beginning of somebody's career. But as a career counselor, what do you do?
As a career counselor, we're responsible our primary duty is to retain soldiers in the military. We are definitely the honest brokers of the command and also advocates for the soldiers. Our responsibility is to ensure that we are maximizing soldiers' career and making sure that they are aware of all the opportunities and the resources that they have in the military. We want to make sure from day one, the soldier has come into the military to the last day, whatever day they to the military, that we have given them all the tools and the resources to be absolutely successful and to make sure that they are able to get everything they possibly can out of their careers.
What influenced you to change your career in the Army?
So for me, it really was an opportunity that presented itself. I absolutely loved being a combat medic. I have some of my greatest memories in the military was from being a combat medic, but it was really an opportunity that presented itself. I remember it was Master Sergeant. I was a retention NCO at first, and that's how I got introduced to this job. And he asked me, he was like, "Hey, would you consider doing this full time?" And I was like, "What? This is a real job?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, seriously, like we get paid in the Army to do this job." And he was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Of course," because at that point, I had seen a different part of the military, and it was really exciting for me, and the ability to influence soldiers' career in a different aspect, it really started to drive to me and speak to me. And I really wanted to join a field that was able to have a positive impact in soldiers' careers.
Can you tell us a little bit about your family? I already know, but tell our viewers about your family.
So I'm married to my husband, Chris, and he is definitely, I think, my biggest support team that I have. He one of my favorite things about him is that he never tells me no. So I appreciate that. We have our oldest daughter, Layla. She's 19 years old, and she's currently in her second semester in Augusta University. And we were fortunate and surprised by our recent additions, our twin girls, who are 2 years old, Amelia and Aubrey, and they are currently running the show at home.
Did you ever have any doubt about your position or path in the Army? And how did you overcome those doubts?
One of the things that I had to get used to with being in the Army was being put in positions that I didn't volunteer for, or I wouldn't have necessarily volunteered for, because I just wasn't sure if that was either the right fit or if I was the right person for the job. So there were a lot of times that I would kind of stand in the back and hoping that no one picked me. But when I was put in those positions, there was definitely a lot of doubt. But how I overcame that was that I was fortunate to have mentors and leaders who were able to guide me through the process. There were very few times, or I can't really remember any times that I felt like I was deliberately being set up for failure. A lot of times that my leaders saw something in me where they wanted me to push myself, and they wanted me to challenge myself and get out of my comfort zone. And at first I was really uncomfortable because I'm just like, like most people, nobody wants to fail. You don't want to be the one that doesn't do well at your job. You don't want to be the one that fails at your job. So when you're put in a situation that you're uncomfortable, you just have to rely on your skill, rely on your ability to be adaptable, and rely on the confidence that the leaders have in you. And that's really how I was able to get through with it. And being able to surround myself with people who were invested in my career, surround myself with people who saw were able to mentor me, guide me through the process, and to let me know that it was okay, even if I didn't do well, or if it was okay if I was to fail. But the most important thing was that I learned from my mistake.
It's awesome to know that you have those people in your corner throughout your career that will help you and guide you. For me, everyone, Master Sergeant Searcy is definitely one of those people. So it's sad to kind of see her leave the Army and put that part of her career behind her. But I'm so excited to see the things she does following this.
Thank you.
Master Sergeant Searcy, are you the first female in your family to join the military, specifically the Army?
Yes, actually. My family is from Trinidad and Tobago, and I grew up in Canada. So military wasn't really a strong influence in our background or in our lifestyle. So the fact that I up and one day decided to join the military was a shock to everyone who knew me, because the people who knew me before, even myself, I wouldn't have never imagined that I would have done a 20-year career in the military. So the fact that now I can look back, and my family and I can look back and see the growth that has happened over the 20 years of my journey in the military career, it is humbling, and it is just so rewarding. And it's definitely a pride that I carry with myself. And even my daughter, she's proud to call herself a military brat, and being exposed to that military lifestyle, in fact, it's actually created an identity that she can identify with and have something that is special to her, and sets her apart from some of the other students in her class. So it has really become a lifestyle for us, and it's really been something that I can look back and to really be honored that I was part of the 1% that got to serve this wonderful, amazing nation.
What was your favorite assignment?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question. And I don't and I say that because there was there were so many great things that happened in all of my different assignments, whether it be a position that I held, whether I was a team leader for a line unit when I was a medic, when I was in Germany, or whether I was a squad leader, and having my soldiers challenge me for me to be a better leader, or whether it was when I was deployed. There was just something that was memorable that I can look back and really just be proud and just have some really great memories, and the people that you meet in your military career. I think that's one of the greatest things about it. You know, every time you PCS, every time you go to another duty station or you're introduced to another position, it's like your family just continuously grows around you. And that's really what I feel like. That all my duty stations, I have met amazing people who are near and dear to me up to this day, that I will forever have a connection, and I will forever be in contact and always have that special bond with them in a way that I don't think you get to experience that outside the military.
So my next question is kind of geared towards our viewers, the people that are joining the Army now, which would be, what has kept you motivated throughout 20 years? 20 years is a long time. When people come in, they think, you know, I'm going to do 3 years, I'm going to do 4 or 5 years, and I'm going to get out. How did you kind of get past those points and say, you know what, I'm in it for the long haul?
So I did not come in the military thinking that I was going to retire. And even even when I hit my 10-year mark, I still wasn't even convinced that I was going to retire. But what kept me motivated is that every time I looked back at a milestone that I had in my life, it was it was an opportunity that I wouldn't have done if I wasn't in the military. I wouldn't have exposed myself to certain challenges that has really made me grow, and for me to really figure out who I am and what do I enjoy. And the way that I've been able to be motivated and challenged and put in situations, you just can't get some of those experience outside of the military. And I really have grown to appreciate that. And I really wanted to see how far I can go. So it actually turned, after a while, what motivated me was, besides how I enjoyed looking at myself and who I was becoming, was really one of the biggest things. But um, how the military was able to take care of me and my family. So there were so many things internally that I just, when you sit down and looked at it from the bigger picture, it was just a package deal that it just made sense for my lifestyle. So when I look back and, when I look at what kept me going, I loved the person who I was growing to be. I loved the person who I was, when I looked in the mirror, that I was proud of who I was looking at.
Who would you say are your role models?
Oh gosh, there are so many. I would definitely say my mother is definitely one of my role models. But I've had some amazing leaders. Matter of fact, my role models mentor, I think we can use those interchangeably. He's now retired, Keith Wickham. And he was one of those sergeant majors that in my career, that when I first met him, I was like, oh, I'm not going to like this guy, right? He was rough, he was rugged, and just spoke his mind. And I remember when I was assigned to him as his career counselor, and I'm like, God, what am I doing here? Like, this is not going to work out. But in that transition, in that process, I remember him saying, I remember him not allowing me to back down or to back out in situations. And he kept on telling me that I had broad shoulders, broad shoulders. He's like, don't worry, you can handle it. You have broad shoulders. And at first I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right. But now that I look back at what he was talking about, is that, I was able to handle those challenges. And he he trusted my abilities to overcome adversity and to overcome those challenges and to see the best way out of it. So so he was definitely the one. He was definitely the one of the leaders, one of the many leaders. When I assure you, there are many that has definitely taken that that shift in my career from just being in the military and now wanting to be part of solutions in the military.
What would you say is the most challenging part of being a career counselor?
The most challenging part is that every soldier has their own unique situations. Every soldier has their own situations that is usually not a uh, one fits all situation. So as a career counselor, you have to remember that although you have rules and regulations and policies to help guide you, you have to be a person first. You have to be relatable, and you have to be able to connect with the soldiers. And sometimes I think that as a career counselor, what is challenging is that making those work, trying to meet the needs of the soldier and what they want and what they need, and making sure that you're meeting the needs of the Army and what's best for the Army. And sometimes sometimes it doesn't always work out in the way that you want it to work out.
As you progress through the Army ranks, what have you learned about leadership?
Oh, what I've learned about leadership is that leadership is fluid. Leadership changes. Leadership is it is it is what you make out of it. I think that sometimes what I've seen in my military career, I've seen great leaderships, I've seen decent leadership, and I've seen leaders that sometimes it's just, we have to say thank you for your service, and they should, definitely leave the military. But with that, it's all learned from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And in leadership is that it evolves with you, the person, because I'm sure even with the two of you, when you think about who you were maybe 2-3 years ago to the type of leader that you are today, it changes. It changes with experience. It changes with confidence. It changes with your environment, your situations. All those impact your ability to lead. But as long as you remain teachable, as long as you recognize that you are not better than anybody and you treat everybody with respect, then those are some of the main characteristics that makes you an effective leader. And I think that is what we need right now in the military, more so than ever, are leaders that are effective and relatable.
What was your experience like, especially now because you have two twin daughters, balancing family with career? And what advice would you give to future soldiers coming into the Army in regards to that?
So in regards to balancing your military career and your family, this was a struggle that I had, because as I mentioned that I have a 19-year-old, then I had years of no babies, and then we had babies towards the end of my military career. So even as a leader, I had to readdress the way that even how I handle soldiers, because for so long family, when I left home, family was home, and it was very rare that it intertwined with each other. So when I started having young babies, and now I have to go home because I got sick babies, or babies are sick, then it made me open my eyes and to be a lot more empathetic and sympathetic to soldiers that do have those issues. And as leaders, it is important that we have to recognize that just because you no longer are exposed to those situations, or just because it was rough for you as a leader when you were a parent, or when it doesn't matter. at the end of the day, you have to respect that individual and treat them in a way that is best for them and their family. And so that's where, I mean, when we're talking about family and balance, is that you have to find what works for you. Sometimes if you go on the internet and you read these rules, like this is what you should do, it may not be applicable. But when you find that rhythm and you find that balance, it may not be perfect, and that's okay. But as long as it works for you, and recognizing that it is unique to you, your family, and your situations and your needs. And do not think that it's a perfect situation, or there's a guide or a rule book that is going to tell you how to balance your family and how to balance work. It isn't. But as long as you recognize that you're committed and you're invested in both your family, and you're committed and invested in your work, it's going to work itself out.
Would you recommend the Army to other young men and women?
Yeah, I failed with my daughter. So I did. So I definitely when I look at the person that walked on the bus the first day that I went to basic training, and I look at the person that I am now. One, you probably wouldn't have never asked to do this interview if you met me 20 years ago, right? But the transition that has happened mentally, physically to me is, and just the opportunity to appreciate life and to be exposed to things, to environments, experiences, situations. I would have never been able to do those things, and that's the honest truth. It's not that I would have been capable, but I mean, there are just certain situations that the Army has made it easy to do those things, and I appreciate everything that the Army has done. So for me, sometimes the plans that we have change, and the Army makes it so the Army is so flexible that it's okay to change and shift and pivot in different directions, and you still have that safety net. And I try to express that to young soldiers or young individuals, is that it's okay. You don't have to have a perfect idea as to what you want to do, because the Army is going to give you opportunities or windows of opportunities to try as many things as you want, and you figure it out at the end.
I want to ask one more question, because we get it a lot from applicants as they come in and process. Were you able to continue your education after you joined the Army?
Absolutely. Most of my education I did was done in the military. I was able to complete my bachelor's degree in business management, and I was also able to obtain 2 certifications through the CA Army Ignite process, as a resilience building leader development trainer, and also as a certified business continuity professional, all on Army expense. And I mean, I couldn't ask for a better opportunity than that.
That's awesome.
If you could brag on yourself for a minute, what story would you tell?
Oh, wow.
You like to give the hard question.
Yeah, I know, right? I think for me, I was the NCOIC for the female engagement team during my last deployment in Afghanistan. And I had no idea what I was doing. It was, I mean, again, Star Major retired Wickham, he told me that I had broad shoulders, and he trusted me to lead the team. And it was to me, it was more than just the experience, but I was responsible for a team. I was responsible for training. I was responsible for getting everybody ready to perform in live operations, in theater operations. So there was a lot of pressure that goes along with it. And we were able to go down range and to communicate and connect with the women, the Afghani women, in areas that in some cases they have never seen at the time ISAF forces, period. So we were the first outsiders that they had met, and they were so grateful to sit down and talk to us and to share what their visions were, what their challenges were, and how we were able to help and improve their quality of life. We were able to provide them with resources that the women in their communities that they don't typically have these opportunities were able to start their own businesses, were able to get resources to make money for their families. And it was just so mind-blowing that that I was part of that effort, and to have a team that was with me, that we grew from just selecting members to now we were making national social change in the world. It's just so memorable, and it definitely it goes on top of the list as one of my memorable experiences.
That the impact there is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna take a brief break so you can hear from one of our local Huntington Beach recruiting company recruiters, and we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Staff Sergeant Strand. I'm from Wichita, Kansas. I joined the Army in 2008 after graduating high school. I decided to join the Army just because I wanted something to pay for college and kind of get my career going and stuff like that in the military police corps. I've been in the Army now for 13 years. I've deployed. I've been around the United States. Got 2 kids, a wife. I'm stationed currently at Lake Forest Army Recruiting Office. Pretty good little place to be at. If you want to join the Army, you got questions or anything like that, and you have free time, just come down here and come check us out.
All right, so now, Master Seriously, we want to talk about a topic that is important to our applicants, but as well as something that is important to soldiers in the Army. And one thing that you and I have in common is the MRT, which is Master Resiliency Trainer. So if you could just give our viewers a little bit of a background on resiliency and how that plays a part in the Army in daily life.
So the first time that resilience really struck a bone in me was when I took the MRT course, because I think that prior to that, the word was there floating around, and I was just like, yeah, I'm resilient. When I'm upset, I can get myself back on track. And I think that, I'm resilient, until I took the course. And the course, what it made me realize is that resilience is more than a moment. Resilience is more than when I have a challenge, how I overcome it. And the MRT was able to allow me to really just sit back and get a true self-awareness of how I interact with myself, how I interact with others. And there were so many factors and so many characteristics that I was not aware, or it wasn't a there wasn't a really a need for me to be aware of those skills. So once I was able to tap into those skills, I I became a better leader. I became a better mother. I became a better person, and I was nicer and kinder to myself, because I realized that I had these false illusions of perfections and all these things. And the MRT just really helped me identify what my triggers are, how to identify, and how do I react, and how do I handle, and how do I process and really pay attention to the steps that I do to get to the next point. And that was really a learning curve for me, because I think that prior to MRT, I wasn't mindful about how I interacted with people. It was just like I had that moment and I just went on. But then when I took the MRT, was much more aware as to my ability to communicate, making sure that I was making connections where it was beneficial for both parties involved. And that really changed the quality of how I became a leader in the military.
How do you feel resiliency can benefit new soldiers when they go to basic training?
Well, I think that it is crucial, because for many of the new recruits, their day one is going to be different. They're going to be exposed to different things that they don't that how do you handle something that you haven't been exposed to before, and introducing resilience in the military as early as possible, it is going to be key, because in the military, for many of us, that is a true fact, that we are going to be exposed to things that you just don't have the blue book for. And being able to adapt and being able to overcome is what I think the mantra of the military. But how do you do that? How do you understand, and how do you appreciate your triggers, and recognizing, okay, I know these are one of my triggers, but how do I make it work where I can still be effective at the end of the situation? And that's where I think it comes in with the new recruits, is that being able to recognize that even in non-perfect situations, you can still make a better decision.
Do you feel it is important to incorporate mental health counseling as an important tenet of resiliency?
I think so. I think that when I look back at the military 20 years ago, mental health wasn't something that we talked about. And I appreciate the shift. When I appreciate the shift in the culture, and making it okay for leaders and soldiers to understand that mental health does not define who they are, and for leaders to encourage individuals to seek help. And I appreciate the continuous efforts and change that the military is taking with making mental health not a taboo subject. But I think that if we continue to combine those two efforts, and recognizing mental health, but providing the tools and the resources to help individuals get from moment to moment, it is going to really change the culture in the military.
Absolutely. So this next question I have for you is, it's kind of interesting to me, because for me, I've obviously only been in the Army 11 years. So you got 9 years on me, almost 10. But to me, MRT or resiliency training taught in units sometimes leaves something to be desired. So, and it wasn't until, like yourself, I went to the MRT course that I really got a full grasp and picture of what it's intended to be. So my question for you is, how can current resiliency training within the Army be improved or better incorporated into units?
I think that it's I think the conversation is already being had, is that we're talking about resilience, and that's the first step. And I think that the military is definitely starting to recognize that it is the the dust it off and brush it off concept is not really what is going to keep the soldiers in the game. So when we talk about ways to improve resilience in the organization, I to me, MRT deals a lot with self-reflection and how an individual can improve their resilience. And I think that the next step that we take from that, it is how we can start introducing resilience as a larger level, a larger concept, as far as how are we doing organizational resilience, and how as collective efforts are we working all together to improve the culture and resilience within the military. And I have the feeling that it's going to get there, because I know the conversations are being had. And as long as leaders are willing to, again, remain flexible and teachable, and are willing to introduce new concepts to better improve the warfighter, to better improve the quality in the culture in the military, then that's where it begins. And as long as uh, our senior leaders recognize the importance of maintaining and constantly being mindful in how to maintain the health of the soldiers, then those conversations are going to continue to be had.
Out of the 14 lessons of MRT, which lesson resonates or has resonated with you the most in your career?
To me, there's two. There is definitely gratitude. I know that that's usually, when we talk about MRT, it's the hunt, the good stuff. But I know even Flores, you've heard me talk about hunt the good stuff. I think that showing gratitude to the people around you, it is one of the most simple thing that an individual can do that has the most impact on everyone's day. The ability as even as a senior leader to show gratitude to a junior soldier, it just has such a positive impact, and it's a skill that just keeps on going. And then the other one is being communication, being able to understand and being able to recognize some of the ways that I can improve the way that I communicate to other people, and being mindful as to those ways that can take away the beauty of a communication. That was really a big deal for me, and I know it improved our communication within the family. And like I mentioned earlier, really my ability to sit down and have more effective communications with soldiers, which overall led to soldiers being more satisfied in their job because they felt as if somebody was actually listening to them and being able to help them with their needs.
Throughout the Army, there is a unspoken divide on culture. How do you feel that hinders individuals and team resilience?
So I think that when we talk about culture, I think that culture is command driven. It's leaders' responsibilities to have a to drive positive culture. And if leaders are not being mindful as far as um, implementing or improving their ways to improve the culture, then it's going to continue to create that drive or that division. But if we are looking at, and if more people are being mindful about resilience, and if we are making that conscious effort to say that we're that those behaviors or those skills are no longer going to be accepted in our formations, then that's where it becomes. It starts with accountability of how we are interacting with our soldiers, and how, as leaders, how are we influencing our culture, and also how am I improving resilience in my organization. And if leaders are not willing to be accountable for how they are part of the problem, then they're not going to be part of the solution either.
Before we get to our last little section, I want to take 1 second to let Master Sergeant Searcy shout out her brand new podcast where you can go and learn more about resiliency. She's posting all the time. It's good content and a lot of great information. Go ahead, Master Sergeant.
Oh, well, thank you. I am the host of On the Bounce, and Bounce talks about, we have 2 seasons where we talk about personal resilience, and we talk about leadership, resilience and leadership. And it is just, resilience has been has had such a positive influence in my life and my career, that it's definitely something that I want to continue to spread the good word, and to make sure that individuals are able to reap the benefit in becoming more resilient, and just enjoying the process and the journey.
Okay, we're about to move to advice and knowledge to the next generation. From your experience, what advice or knowledge would you like to impart upon current and future soldiers?
First thing that I would say is that rank doesn't define a person. So just because you are a junior individual, it doesn't mean that you are not able to be part of change, part of an influence, or part of a process. So don't shy away because of your rank. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Those challenges and those opportunities that present themselves, jump at it, do it. Even if you fail, even if you suck at it, it doesn't matter. Dust yourself off, get yourself back up again, and just keep going. Take those challenges and seek out mentors. Mentors come in all different shapes, sizes, and in all aspects of your life. You're going to have mentors that are there for a short time, and you're going to have mentors that are there for a very long time in your career. Seek them out and ask questions. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get to know people. I know that I wish when I came in the military that I did not let someone's rank shy me away from having communications or just asking about what they do. And I wish I would have known more earlier in my career. So that's where I say get out of that comfort zone and get to know people, have conversations, get to know the person to the left or the right of you, and really enjoy the process. The military is the way that I see it, it's a blank canvas, and you are the artist and with no limits. You're the one that is going to really determine what your painting is going to look like at the end of your career. And I'm telling you, don't be shy. Don't be shy and get out of your comfort zone.
Master Sergeant Searcy, thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to do this interview with us. I truly, truly appreciate it. The next generation is missing out on an outstanding leader.
Thank you. I do appreciate your time. And again, thank you for this opportunity. This has been so amazing. And I wanted to say kudos to you two and just continue doing what you guys are doing. It's things like this that is going to continue to move change and being those agents of change and really kind of helping the process and making the word making it really get out there. Resilience and change is one of those things that is going to continue to improve the formations, and you guys are absolutely doing the right thing to get the word out there. So I appreciate this, and the soldiers of the future are really going to appreciate this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.